And the reason I bring this up right now is we need to stand up, because let me tell you something right now. I'm seeing already at the State Hospital, I'm seeing it in the Rogers, services are being cut. PIP shelter, removing it, is going to require a lot of state funds. It already is requiring a lot of state funds to keep it active, and grants from all different parts of the community. They're being cut as we speak. The most important thing we can do right now is recognize the problem, that there's funding being slashed, and stand up and make sure it doesn't happen. Whether it be Epica standing with Corey, that was a long, hard fight, and you kept it up, and that's why it happened. Well, the same thing is happening right now. It's going to happen. These people are going to get crushed unless we stand up. So I hope going forward as part of City Council, we're going to start recognizing that it's happening in our community and stand up.
Thank you. Yes, I do support any program that will help in the transition from the PIP shelter. But as we all know, we are going to face some tough economic times, and I think all hands need to be on deck. As a community, we need to work together to make things happen. So what I'll do is, we need to work with our churches. We need to strengthen our relationship with our churches so they can provide some of the service that some of those people need. We need to work with our colleges and universities so that maybe we can have some mentors that can teach them interview manner, job training, etiquette, things such as that can get them back into the workforce. We need to have some of our community-based organizations work with each other so they can share the limited resources that we have. I think in these difficult times, this is the things that we need to do to move forward. Thank you.
My experience from living down in Maine South the last 12 years, close to the PIP shelter, is that there really is kind of, the short answer, three kinds of homeless groups of folks. Number one is folks who are economic victims, folks who have lost their jobs, who struggle, lost their homes, and end up kind of on the street or in the shelter system. The second part are some folks who are mentally ill, folks who have been at one time in an institution and on the street, and are struggling with mental illness and don't have a lot of supports. And the third part is kind of chronic folks who struggle with chronic substance abuse and are kind of trying to get through that addiction without a lot of resources to help them. There is some good news in this federally funded program that is working to house folks that I know some of the councilors have been working very closely on, and I think that's going to make some progress. Certainly make some progress for some of those economically disadvantaged folks. I think the challenge will be, will there be enough resources to support folks who struggle with mental illness and folks who are struggling with chronic substance abuse. We know at the end of the day you still need to have beds for those folks and programs that help those folks. And I know, I do think it's one area we should applaud the city, because they have been aggressive in working with our office, the Congressman Governor's office, to try to get some of these federal resources into this community to help the folks all across that homeless spectrum. So I'm hopeful that some actually good progress is going to happen next year or two. Thank you.
I can't think of anything more degrading than the neighborhood, than the PIP shelter. And I can't think of anything more degrading to the residents who have to go to the PIP shelter than the PIP shelter. And that's why we finally settled down on the City Council and developed a long-term plan. You've heard about it. We are going to see emergency shelters gone as part of that. We are going to see Housing First instituted to replace it. We have to treat both the neighborhood and the folks that need that help with an element of dignity. And while we have this plan in place, and we have the triage and the services from detox to job training, there's one thing we've got to remember as a city council, as a community. We can't get detoured. We can't forget what's on paper has to become reality. And so if we do, I expect everybody here to remind us.
Hi there. So yeah, Housing First kind of came on the scene, and there was lots of evidence from the folks who have figured out that if you give people a roof over the head and the services they need, that's better than warehousing people in shelters, and I appreciate my opponent for acknowledging that. I got excited about that research and actually helped bring it to the State House so that we get the enabling legislation at the state level so that Worcester could do this. But this mean, I'm thrilled that folks in this audience and the folks who came up with this question are following this, and I think that the mayor's right. It's going to take all of us being diligent, and we're going to have to be ambassadors for this program, right? Because we've got to get folks across the city to be willing to site houses so that people can have this kind of housing. The thing is that there's a pink elephant in the room that no one's talking about, which is the foreclosure crisis. We have more folks in hotels right now than we've ever had, I think, going in the history all the way back to the Great Depression. So the next crisis, you've got to insist that everybody on the city council pay attention to now. Because although we think it's bad, it's going to get worse if we don't do more, because the foreclosures are going to continue. And I don't know how you all feel, but when I see an empty house, my heart breaks, because it's somebody's home that has gotten foreclosed. And there's a lot more we can do. The city was ahead of the curve in the first couple of years. They are now behind the curve. And part of the reason I'm excited about serving in District 4 is because we can actually make sure that at least half the folks who are losing those homes, if they knew their rights, they could stay in their homes now. We've got to make sure we stop emptying the neighborhoods, stop creating more homeless folks. And we can do it, and it's going to take taking those crime watches and the rest of us to go out there and talk with our neighbors, help them support their rights. There are models out there that are working, and we've got to do it. We've got to do it now, because it's ruining our city's economy, our neighborhoods, our schools, and our connections with each other. Thank you.
Doing projects all around the United States, in many states, I always hired people that were either homeless or they had need, or that I could help them get better to be proud Americans. I love this country, and I want all of us to be equally successful. I'm not successful because I gave it away. I'm successful because I did, and I feel good about it. If I put down a list of all the programs and all that stuff, I'll be lying to you, because there's no money. As a mayor, I can pick up the phone and call the buddy that I know has the money and say, hello, this Greek became mayor of Worcester, and I want you to cough it up. Because that's the only way you'll see money in this city. You will not see money from the governor. You will not see money from the councilors. And everybody's going to have their nice homes, and you will not. But if it comes to me and getting the money, I can get it. I got it when I wanted to do a state capitol, so I'll remind them, I made your city look good. Now it's your turn to make me look good, because I got people I have to take care of. Take care.